actor playing Frodo, Elijah Wood, he's taller than me, normal sized guy. And they couldn't have those two actors sit next to each other in the cart, because then they would just look the same size. Wouldn't really look like a hobbit. So instead, the cart that they were riding in was actually very long and very skinny, because they put Frodo 3 meters behind Gandalf. And because he's so much further away, he looks a lot smaller.
Yeah. Road going to Hobbit House that we're gonna see. It's 2 minutes away. 1 minute away now. So I must take this and show you guys. The view here is look really wonderful. It's pretty, grainy. I see it now. They call this Hobbiton Movie Set. Welcome to Hobbiton.
Can you tell us whereabouts are you both from?
We're from Australia.
Oh, sorry guys. My apologies.
Can you tell that Stephen is actually New Zealander? I am not, by the way. I'm from the US. I'm the only one on the bus not from this hemisphere.
Susan's from the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So how long are you guys in New Zealand?
Till Monday.
Yeah,
Okay.
till Monday.
Are you going to tell us all about that delightful Saturday afternoon? Are you?
What about Saturday?
1998?
Oh, I could tell a story about 1998. Wonderful Saturday afternoon. Rugby was on, sun was out, birds were probably singing somewhere in the world. And it was on that Saturday afternoon that a lovely gentleman went over to that house on the hill, banged on the door, heard nothing, banged on the door several more times. Finally, Mr. Alexander came over and said, "Hey, what do you want?" And that is when the lovely location scout introduced himself, said, "Hey, my friend's Peter Jackson. He wants to film a movie here on your farm. Do you mind if we take a look around?" Rugby was on, which was the issue. That's why Mr. Alexander didn't come over to the door. But he was nice enough to let the location scout look around the farm, and they decided to use this farm to film it.
Oh, wow.
That's the condensed version. Steven likes to tell a 20-minute version of that story.
I must admit, that was quite an interesting little way of putting it.
We got the facts out.
Yeah, man. So the Alexander homestead is actually the house out to our right-hand side, the White House now. So it was back in 1978 that Ian Alexander purchased this property. 1,250 acres, you'll learn more about that shortly. Now his eldest son, Craig, manages the farm here and resides in that property.
So Hobbiton is on the other side of this gate, and we will get to go through it right now. Actually,
Like
has
this,
anyone
sweetie,
seen
so
the
you can
Hobbit
press the button when
movies?
you need to.
Yeah.
Yep.
See?
So if you've seen the Hobbit movies, our entrance is going to look a little familiar. If you remember in the beginning of the first Hobbit movie, so after the big party with the dwarves inside of Baggins, the food throwing, the plate throwing, Bilbo wakes up the next morning. Dwarves have already left, so they started the adventure without him. So that's when Bilbo runs out of Bag End at the top, runs all through Hobbiton, jumping over fences, and he runs past a hobbit who actually asks him, "Hey, Mr. Bilbo, where are you off to?" And Bilbo says, "Can't stop, I'm already late." And the hobbit says, "Late for what?" And Bilbo says, "I'm going on an adventure." And he shouts that as he runs out the stone walls that we are going to walk through. So it's how he started his adventure, and it's how we get to start our adventure. So let's go into Hobbiton.
Real people on set aren't really that short. How do they
Nope.
make
Well,
it look like the...
So you might have noticed this is also not a short hobbit hole.
Uh-huh.
So these two hobbit holes that we have here, the yellow door and the blue door, these hobbit holes are about 90% human size. That's because most of the extras were 5'4" or shorter, which is about our size. I'm 5'1". And that means if I walked through the yellow door, it would look really normal for me, like it was my size. It would make the actors look like they were actually hobbits living inside the hobbit holes.
Okay.
Now, someone your size can't really fit through that door. You're gonna be a little too tall to be a hobbit.
Yeah.
But you could go be a wizard. Because if you stand by these small hobbit holes, you are much bigger than the hobbit hole.
Yeah.
And that's what they would do. They would have wizards, Gandalf, humans go stand by the small hobbit holes. Because they look bigger than it, we think they're bigger than we.
Yeah.
And then everyone else playing hobbits would stand by these ones.
Yeah, okay.
So you can get pictures of both. You can be a hobbit today or a wizard.
Yes.
So that's also the reason that we can see different size things in Hobbiton. So big fences like this one, smaller fences like these ones or those ones over there. Even the big clothes that we can see on the clothesline up there. We needed big clothes up there because they're above the big hobbit holes. So it would look kind of weird if there were small clothes up there.
Yeah. So, we go into the small ones.
They do, but we're not going to. But all of them open up, all of them look the same on the inside. They never needed to
Welcome to my home.
You're about hobbit size, my love.
Yeah, that's my home. Thank you, baby. Okay. Okay, they have vegetable in there.
Yes, yep, and real vegetables. So there's about 6 full-time
God,
gardeners
that's
who look
real
after
vegetable.
here. So they get to take home what they grow, the workers being gardener. Anything the birds leave behind, they get to bring home for dinner.
Ah, oh, that's like a
Real veggies are the...
that's the one I
The ones
like.
sitting here on the table, the pumpkins are real, but
The
but the ones that are in the ground, always a sure bet that those ones are real.
the herbs, babe. I like the herbs.
What's that one?
That's Vietnamese herb, but
Ah,
I don't know. Okay.
Well, this area is actually called Gandalf's Cutting.
Good.
That's the address that all of these hobbit holes get to have. Like we've got like number 1 and number 2 Gandalf Cutting Road. And that's because those stone walls that we walked through cut through the hill just there. And we actually see Gandalf drive his cart through the cutting. So Gandalf's Cutting. So that's at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, right after the scene that we just watched together on the bus. So after Frodo meets Gandalf on the side of the road, he jumps into the cart with Gandalf, and then they ride through the walls, up this path, all the way up to Baggins at the top. But, small problem, Frodo's a hobbit, So he's the size of that door.
Yeah.
The actor playing Frodo, Elijah Wood, he's taller than me, normal size guy. And they couldn't have those two actors sit next to each other in the cart because then they would just look the same size. Wouldn't really look like a hobbit. So instead, the cart they were riding in was actually very long and very skinny because they put Frodo 3 meters behind Gandalf. And because he's so much further away, he looks a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So, yep, camera would be up by Gandalf, Frodo would be way in the back. And because he's so much further away, he's like the size of a hobbit. That's called forced perspective. It's one of the ways they make hobbits look small. The other way we were kind of talking about with the different size hobbit holes. It does mean it's a little harder to film any scene that requires a hobbit, because in a forced perspective scene, instead of turning next to you to have a conversation or reaching across the table to pour a cup of tea, they're not actually sitting directly in front of you or next to you. They're sitting really far behind you. So it's a little harder. They would give the actors marks to look at to say, just pretend your friend's eyes would be about right here, because really your friend is
Way the hell
way
back
back there.
Out of it.
Yeah. So luckily they're very good actors. They could kind of work through it together. But it's really incredible, the practical ways that they managed to film those scenes instead of using computer effects.
Yeah.
So they didn't really use computer effects.
20 years ago, no, they were trying as much as possible to do things in a practical way.
Okay.
It helped that Peter Jackson's background was kind of in low-budget horror movies, so he was really used to having to make his own effects. He and his friends used to make like monster masks and monster blood, which came in very handy when designing the orcs, for example. And because they were used to doing things in a low-budget way, they could do things in a practical way instead of a computer way, which is very clever, I think.
It is.
A lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So if you're
Let's
ready,
move
you
on.
can go see some more Hobbit Holes. There are 44 Hobbit Holes here, so we have a lot to look at. It's very fun.
Did they film all 44? They must have.
No. No, they did not. There are
That's the Hobbiton garden. They have a lot of fruits and vegetables, herbs, and something.
It's really fun looking for all the tiny little details, like the fish on the mailbox, or the little fish hooks on the table there.
Mm.
So we were telling you that the first time they built here, it was all temporary materials. So even the bricks, for example, those would have been polystyrene, so you could have just pulled them apart with your hands. And so it was the second time that they rebuilt it that they used these permanent materials. Now, of course, it's only been here 10 years, even though it kind of looks a lot older than that.
Yeah.
So they did need to age it.
Yeah.
So they did that in a couple of ways. One of the ways they did that was on the wood. They would put vinegar on the wood, because vinegar darkens the wood and it gives it an older look. They'd also hit the wood with chains, really heavy chains that makes it crack and kind of splinter, giving it that older, rustic look. Even the gates that you see here, we have some very moldy gates, but if you touch it, it's actually really hard because it's wood chips. So they glue wood chips onto the gates and fences here, and then just paint back over it to make it look like mold. Now sometimes they would also paint yogurt onto the fences, because yogurt actually helps real mold grow faster.
Yeah.
So some of it is real mold, real moss. So careful where you put your fingers today. But it's a fun little detail.
Mm. Oh, it's so many houses in here, very small houses. Oh, this is herbs. This is herbs. Smell nice.
The third one first movie and end of the third movie.
Where in New Zealand did they do the rest of the movies?
There are 158 film locations.
Yeah.
So it is all over. We're actually going to be going up this way. So we're going to go that way at the end. I'm just wondering. That's okay. I just don't want you to wander too far. Yeah, we're going to come back down that way after Baggins. Oh, cool. We'll get to see all of it, promise. Yeah, so most of the outside from the location was South Island, just because it has more of a rugged look for Middle Earth. So there's mountains, Southern Alps. But also outside Wellington, they would kind of use anything within a half-hour or hour radius of Wellington. That's where the studios were, so it's really convenient. They would say, oh, it's raining today, let's stay at the studio. Oh, it's sunny, let's go out to Mount Victoria. Definitely made it easier.
And how many of the sets are open to the public still?
This is it. This is the only set that's remaining.
Oh, yeah.
So some of the other filming locations you can still visit, and I've visited as many as I can, but there's nothing left of them. Some of them it's still easy to kind of recognize, oh yeah, you can kind of picture Rohan sitting on top of that mountain, but none of them have any films, which is what makes Hobbiton so special, because it really does feel like you stepped into a different world. Yeah, it really is. Yes, this area actually behind us is one of my favorite areas. There's some really fun little Hobbit Holes hidden up there. So we call it the Dell. So it has a little pond here, little vegetable garden. It's even got an orchard. So these trees over on your left are actually fruit trees. Barely. They don't look like much in the winter right now. But these are fruit trees, apple trees, pear trees. So in the books, it actually talks about the hobbits sitting under plum trees. Peter Jackson, remember that line from the book, and he decided he really wanted to use plum trees here in Hobbiton. But when they tried to plant those trees, they realized they were actually way too big for hobbits. So when it actually looked like a little hobbit climbing up the tree to pick the fruit, it was just the wrong size. So they use these apple trees and pear trees instead because they're a little smaller. So they look a little better next to hobbits. But Peter Jackson had already made up his mind that he really wanted plum trees. And that's what he got. He sent people over to these apple trees and pear trees, had them pluck off every single leaf and pick all the fruit off until they just looked like sticks, like they do right now. And then they wired on fake leaves and fake plums for every tree in the orchard. So that took a while. Yep, I know. That sounds like a very painful job of hundreds of leaves for each tree. Yep. And that is not the only time that poor little leaf worker was at work here, because there's actually a tree in front of you that is completely fake. So fake leaves, fake trunk, fake branches. Nope. Oh. A little further away.
Over there.
Nope, nope. So that tree above Baggins.
That's where we're going? Or this
So that's Bilbo's house with the big green door. That tree is completely fake. Yeah, the big one on the left, on top of the hill. Yeah, it's a very big tree. It's an oak tree. So when they were filming here 20 years ago, they just used a real oak tree. It's much easier. They just cut one down from a farm and put it up there. But at the end of filming, everything was torn down, including the tree. They did not keep it. So 10 years later, when they rebuilt Hobbiton, they realized, oh no, we got rid of the tree. And so they were not going to be able to find another tree that matched it, especially because they actually needed it to look about 60 years younger, because The Hobbit takes place before The Lord of the Rings. So steel, silicone, and 200,000 leaves makes a very convincing oak tree. Yeah, so they spent weeks building the tree up there, getting it ready for filming. Everyone was pretty happy with it, which is why they were pretty devastated when Peter Jackson showed up on set 10 days before filming, looked up at the tree and said, "Nah, I don't like it."
Really?
Yep, Peter Jackson came and visited, was looking around, making sure everything was right, saw the tree, and noticed that the color of the leaves did not match from The Lord of the Rings. So he sent them back into the tree and had them redo it, had them re-spray paint the leaves. So I don't think anyone was pretty happy with him that day. But it's a good thing he noticed, we get to see the tree for about 12 seconds of the movies. So that's, you know, enough time that I'm sure you were paying attention to the color of the leaves.
Oh, I would
yeah.
have totally walked out.
Yeah.
It would have been very distracting if it was wrong. Yep, so Peter Jackson fixed the mistake for you. You're welcome. Well, I think he's an incredible director because he has that eye for detail.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason he has so many Oscars. And I think it's that type of really picky eye for details that makes Hobbiton feel like a real world,
Yeah.
not just a movie set. Yeah. So we are going to walk around the pond now and go past some more Hobbit holes together.
That's a big axe for a hobbit.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not a human-sized axe.
Yeah.
So we're going to start walking up the hill, which will give us some really nice views looking all around Hobbiton, all around the farm. We'll be able to see out to the Kaimai mountain range. It's really pretty. These are kind of fun. We
Yeah.
have our guinea fowl.
Wow. Big tree and the what's that? The
Guinea fowl, she said.
it's so cute.
So those were released recently. There's 13 of them. They're being very quiet right now because they're all there in a group. But whenever one of them wanders too far away, they start screaming. It's very loud. You can hear it on the other side of sets.
Hello.
Are they all female or?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Oh.
I'm sure they have female and male in there because it's getting more. Big family. This is their water.
Yes, it works. You can pump it.
You wanna pump it, babe?
We're gonna pump it.
Yeah.
expecting it to go the other way.
And it is a drinking fountain. You could drink it if you really wanted to.
Ah, you can still drink it too. Okay. It's ghost in there. Here we go. We're on the top now. Looking more houses. Tiny houses.
Baker's Hobbit Hole. Doesn't really exist. So the first guy that they had thatch the roof was a New Zealander. He didn't do the best job ever. It lasted a couple of weeks.
Oh goodness.
And so they had to bring someone out from the UK who actually knew how to thatch roofs. And so now this one's a couple of years old.
Wow.
Now you might have noticed some of our chimneys have smoke coming out of them. Probably a couple off in the distance that also have smoke. And it is real smoke. It smells very nice.
You want me to take?
Wow, it's just the right size.
I have too many umbrellas. Oh wow, Ben, look.
Yeah, look at that tree. It's a nice one.
Now that we're top of the hill, we have really beautiful views. So if you see the big field in front of us where those people are on the maypole, it's actually the party field. So that's where Bilbo had his birthday party.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I know what up here. And someone was
Yes.
right away and
This is Baggins.
Yeah.
Yep. So we see this Hobbit Hole a lot. First Frodo and Bilbo. Yes, it is. Yep. Does it look a little more artificial?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes. It doesn't look like characters do. Branches take over. So you can see a bit inside the door. But as I mentioned earlier, they didn't actually build the set for Baggins here. So the only reason we can see some of the wall is because they decorated the first 3 meters. And that was during scenes when Bilbo would open the door. They didn't want to see a white empty wall. They wanted it to look like he was actually going inside the house here. But it did mean sometimes they would film a scene of Bilbo opening the door, and then 3 months later they would film a scene of Bilbo walking into Baggins when they were back down in Wellington. So a lot to keep track of. I hate to think what their schedules looked like, because it must have been so confusing to keep track of what had already been filmed.
Yeah.
Now Baggins is a little bit bigger than the last Hobbit Hole we were inside of, and that's because they would put cameras and about 30 crew members on the inside. That way they could film shots looking out the door. That way they could see the beautiful view of Hobbiton behind us.
Someone's got to make sure that this grass all stays together and
Yep.
is trimmed all the time.
Gardeners do a great job of that.
Yeah.
They work longer hours than I do. Yes. And they do like leave it a little bit longer than you usually would, because they don't want Hobbiton to have that kind of just cut the. Can you
go up here, just
Is it a bee?
I haven't even been inside.
Oh, really?
Bumblebee.
Yes.
Bumblebee? Oh,
Biggest bee.
really?
Oh, this side.
There's lots in Tasmania.
Right here?
Really?
That's perfect.
natural egg kita. Okay, stay there, babe. I'm gonna take it. Welcome to my movie star. You're star, babe. Too small. Oh, that's yum yum. That's vegetable. I love that one. That's the small chair for you, sweetheart.
Now, Sam's house is also special for another reason. It is the only Hobbit hole that we have here that is 100% human size. So all the other ones we've been passing are 90%. So Sam's house needed to actually be the size of a human because Sean Astin, who played Sam, is funny enough, a little taller than 5'4". He's probably about your size, so he needed to be able to walk through his front door. So they built it to be the right size for him. Now his wife Rosie is also the barmaid at the Green Dragon, so that's where we get to end the tour. But we're just gonna stop off the lake first, get a lovely view across the lake. And pitch the rest of these people towards the ale and an alcoholic apple cider.
Oh.
And then the non-alcoholic drink we have is a ginger beer. And they are brewed specially for the Green Dragons. They're brewed by Good George up in Hamilton.
Nice.
The Green Dragon looks just as beautiful on the inside, so we are going to get to go inside of it, see all the fun little wood carvings around the bars. But just like Baggins, they didn't actually film the inside of the Green Dragon here, and they never built it here originally. So just like Baggins was filmed out in Wellington. But a couple of years ago, they rebuilt the set here. That way we could actually walk in and see what it should look like on the inside. So all the details are the same as in the movie, which is really special.
What was Green Dragon? Was that a little town near Baggins?
No, that was just the pub, kind of the tavern. So a couple times during the movies, we see the hobbits walking over there to have a drink together.
Yeah.
You also, in the Hobbit movies, there's a marketplace set up outside the Green Dragon. They sing the song inside the Green Dragon, dancing on the tables. There's a great song that goes, you know, you can search far and wide, you can drink the whole town dry. But you never find a beer so brown as the one we drink in our hometown. Might sound familiar, might not. So they did film on the outside of the Green Dragon here, the market scene like I mentioned. But my favorite scene that they filmed here was, you actually see it in Lothlorien when the Fellowship arrives there. Frodo goes and looks into Galadriel's mirror full of water. He sees bits of the future. And so when he's seeing that, he actually sees the orcs attacking. And so he sees the Green Dragon on fire. And they actually set it on fire to film that.
Oh, wow.
Because after the filming had ended here at Hobbiton, they were tearing down the sets. So instead of tearing down the Green Dragon, they just burned it down. which is a lot more fun. It meant they could add it into the movie. They just dressed up some local firefighters as hobbits, let them run around the front a bit looking frantic, and had one chance to film it and get it right.
And then they built it again.
And then they built it again for the Hobbit movies. Yep.